Here's Brody Brazil.
Okay, let's move on. The Oakland A's. Now we're closer to home. Now we're talking to a lot of the subscribers here on this channel. State of the Oakland A's as we speak here in December 2022. Now, they're not going to play a baseball game for a while, but I also realize as I do this here, the year's not over. I don't expect a lot of changes. I think they might be done for this calendar year and even into January of 23 probably. But just looking back of where this baseball team stands, 102 losses here in 2022, the second worst record in Oakland franchise history. Only in 1979 did they lose more games. Those are the only 2 years, 79 and 22, where they lost triple-digit amount of games. So when people say, hey, Brody, was this the worst A's season you've covered? Like, you've done a lot of these. Yes, actually, it's the worst season of my life. I was born in 81. I didn't see the 79 season. So to kind of realize that, but to also understand that none of that really comes as a huge surprise. Some people will say, yeah, this record was self-inflicted. Yes, I mean, the changes they made, the direction that they chose to go in, as soon as the lockout ended back in March, a lot of trades, your major players from Bassett to Minaya to Frankie Montas to Chapman and Olson. Sorry, I'm trying to run through the night. I was trying to do it in order. Forget that. You know all the names. You know how it played out. But the whole thing here is just a matter of a team with different expectations and a different bar and a different plan, right? So none of that was terribly surprising. But now we're looking at a pipeline of prospects and young players that's been rebuilt, and there is some strength there, and there's some excitement there. We've already seen some of the call-ups in their very initial big league stages. But the question is, what's going to pan out? More like, who is going to pan out and when? And at what point do you look back on all of these trades and transactions and maneuvers and eventually draft picks and say, well, some of this or all of this or most of this paid off. The A's have done this, and that's my last point here. The A's and the fans should have confidence in at least one thing: repetition. They've done this before. They've done this well. They do this surprisingly well. They do this even frustratingly well, right? They know how to regenerate. They know how to come back in a couple years and to everybody else's in the league's frustration, like, how do they keep doing this? How do they find the right players? How do they keep rebuilding a team after they tore it down a couple years ago? So that is the one thing you can say about the Oakland A's. For any criticism, there's also this compliment. They know how to find the right people. They know how to bring them up and build a team the right way. So all that's part of the big picture. There's also this: on the field versus off the field versus like actually keeping your field in Oakland. Securing a new home for the Oakland A's. I've said this before. It outweighs anything this baseball team does on the diamond next year in 2023. Commissioner's already said, big year. I think we recognize that. There's a new city council, a couple new council members, I should say. Brand new mayor, Shang Tao, is the mayor-elect as I record this. We've had conversations, that interview, by the way, here on my channel, but a little bit of uncertainty with this new Oakland government. Libby Schaaf, former mayor of 8 years, she was very close, got very close to the A's in terms of building trust and getting the conversation going, getting the wheels spinning between the baseball team and the city. And now we've got to here where there is an agreement to be had still for both sides, and there is a vote, hopefully, a binding vote, hopefully, that ultimately happens by the city council. But we don't know, right, with two new city council members and a new mayor, what does this look like? Do the negotiations change? Does the voting favor the project? We don't exactly know what comes next there, but hopefully soon that's what we find out. At the same point here, we knew it's parallel paths between Oakland and Las Vegas, although it has been oddly quiet on the Las Vegas front. I think a lot of people on the Oakland side of this, including myself as a proponent of the Howard Terminal Ballpark that the A's have worked so hard on, you're just waiting to hear, what is this project up against maybe somewhere else? And there just, to this point, has not been anything that instantly is concerning or worrying, and those things might come. But at this point, it's more about how can the A's in Oakland get this agreement? How can they move forward? How can they get that gap of infrastructure money, right, that they need to build the ballpark at Howard Terminal? How can they narrow that down to ultimately get this stadium to be a reality? So all the big picture stuff, right, on the field, but more importantly, off the field. And it brings us back to the prognosis for the 2023 Oakland A's. In my opinion, they're going to have a better record, like from opening day. Like there's no question about it. More experienced players. This group will not have just gone through the transition of tearing everything down. And quite honestly, I don't expect a lot of change or transition even remaining, like in terms of trading away more players. No disrespect to the entire group, but I mean, are we talking like Cole Irvin, Tony Kemp, Ramon Laureano? Only a couple players who would be trade pieces left for the Oakland A's. So they're retooling, they're rebuilding. James Caprillion. I don't mean to omit anybody, by the way, but the point being here is that the change and the shock factor is just not going to happen much anymore. Now, at some point, you're going to hit that spot where there's no more demolition. It's all about reconstruction. And I think the A's are just about at that point. And so the last thing I want to leave it with here on the A's and my state of their franchise, 2023, it just has to be a year where the healing begins. And I mean like the healing on the field, like the team doesn't lose 100 games and you start to see those upward trends. And hopefully the healing of things moving forward in Oakland to the point where there's a binding agreement, there's a vote, there are some certainties. The name on the front of that jersey, is going to stay Oakland. And that alone is going to bring such a calming influence over this fan base, which, yeah, of course, has been on edge, right? There was like a couple years of 97 win seasons and trying to win. And then all of a sudden, everybody traded away, and in the background of all that is the team staying or going somewhere else. So it's been a turmoil-filled seasons, a couple seasons for the A's. And so, yeah, there's been a lot going on. It's been busy. But if we can get to a calm, healing season for this team and the fans, I think it's going to go a long way. So that's my state of the Oakland A's right here in December of 2022.